Keeping with the trend of trying different things on this channel, I decided to do a little vinyl digging at the local thrift store. I like to stop by the front where they usually have a pile of old TVs and other assorted electronics. You can sometimes find decent tape decks or record players here, but with the popularity of vinyl now, the prices are a little crazy. I spotted this keyboard, which I was hoping was a little cooler than just a learner piano, but it wasn't. Anytime I hit a thrift store, I like to check out the VHS tapes as well. You can pull some cool samples off them, and I have a small collection of horror movies I like on VHS. First rack was an absolute bust, with a lot of aerobics videos and stuff about old wars, compilations they used to sell on late night TV. A lot of the tapes on this rack had mold issues as well. I didn't know until I started collecting VHS tapes they could actually develop mold. Second rack had a few interesting tapes, movies I've never heard of but looked like they were put out by an African movie studio. I would have grabbed them if the tapes weren't filled with mold. I did end up finding a few of those movies on DVD that were in good shape, and I'm excited to check them out. I remember reading an article about a filmmaker there who was putting out tons of movies. I wonder if any of these are theirs. The cover art slaps. Heading down the aisle, they have a back wall that's loaded with a bunch of random electronic items. They stack tape machines back here, as well as old stereos, CD players, and as seen on TV junk that's been abandoned. This tape deck caught my eye. I have no idea if stores like this have a quality control department. It seems like a lot of things on this back wall are broken. It would be a good purchase for parts, I guess. The Blu-ray player next to it looks pretty clean though. Lots of monitors and a few more tape decks. There's also a testing table on the back wall you can plug things in and see if they work. That would probably come in handy when buying a tape deck. The back wall has a lot of household items. The aisles on the left hold clothing racks with a wide assortment of garments. As you move down the back aisle, you can see quite a few pieces of random furniture. Go further down the back wall and the household trinkets turn into kitchen goods like coffee mugs and pots and pans, keeping in pace with the clothing offerings gradually shifting from men's to women's clothes. I wasn't really looking for anything here, I just figured I would take a walk to get some steps in. I like coming to thrift stores, it's incredibly interesting the kind of items people discard. Sometimes you can find some good books here. I think a lot of this stuff comes from estate sale cleanouts or estate sales that have ended and have leftover stuff. Here's the star of the show, the record bin. I've spent years coming to this thrift store and have maybe gotten around 10 records. Sometimes you get lucky and someone who is a radio DJ drops off their entire collection. It all moves pretty fast. There are also a lot of what I like to call trash records, which are basically anything that's done by an orchestra or Christmas vinyl. These are heavy hitters in places like this. It's not all bad though, sometimes you can find some percussion records that have some interesting sounds for backgrounds. You can see a lot of singles in this rack so far. I'm not a big fan of them unless they're some obscure underground hip-hop song. I do think with stems becoming more popular, these will be a bit more useful. Vinyl is heavy though, and that's something I have to take into consideration as my collection is always growing. It's interesting to look at some of the label names you can come across in these thrift store dollar bins. Lots of classics like Motown and Decca. Most of the time, if you find something really cool, you want to check the sleeve to make sure the correct record is inside. You also want to check the condition of the vinyl. A completely trashed record is not going to be that useful for sampling, and it could also mess up your turntable needles. I generally, as a rule, stay away from anything that looks like an old box set as well. It's usually some big collection of Beethoven or some other kind of compilation like that. Normally I'd take a little bit more time to go through the cassette tapes, but I decided to skip it for now. Believe it or not, this location used to have like 2 full tables of cassette tapes, and you can find some really cool samples on audiobooks and other random releases. Cassettes were generally cheaper to produce, so it was less of a gamble for more obscure releases at the height of that format's popularity. So, the secondary bin, we're seeing a bunch of singles, a little bit of newer stuff, but nothing that's really interesting to me at this juncture. I did end up grabbing 2 records out of this pile. They were just singles, but I wanted to try and throw them into Serato to see what the stems sounded like. I look at record digging as more of a zen activity. You don't necessarily need to buy anything to enjoy the act of looking for new music. Whether it be to sample or just to listen to, the act of going out and actively pursuing new things holds a lot of benefits in the eyes of an artist. Kind of like the last video where we talked about creativity, this can open you up to new experiences musically. Even if it doesn't, it's at least interesting to go look through stacks of musical history, both good and bad. I remember when I started producing music and got into sampling from vinyl years ago. This place was great for finding material. Since vinyl has become so much more popular, it seems that these places are becoming more and more desolate due to collectors and resellers. It's unfortunate, but I think the ebb and flow of media markets move to their own rhythm. I'm sure there'll be a day when the vinyl piles up again. Come to think of it, in my city we used to have another spot called Books and Music or something like that. They had piles of vinyl that you could lose time in there pretty easily. We also had a small chain of stores called Record Theater that used to sell records pretty cheap before everything got popular again. Even now, vinyl bins at thrift stores are becoming obsolete. This Amvets has the largest one in the area. I've been to a few other locations and their record bins are maybe 50 records, so someone is out there buying them up, even all the trash ones. As a producer, I'm thankful that we've gotten a bunch of new record stores around here that have a vastly more curated selection. One of the top places, in my opinion, is called Soul Stop Records, and they've been killing it with a ton of really good vinyl. Tons of Japanese releases too, stuff you can't really find just lying around in other record stores around here. I might make a video and show off some of the things I've acquired from them. Great people in that record store as well. It's always a good time going in there to search for some new music. So anyways, like I always say in all these videos, thanks for checking these out. I wanted to do some more vlog style chill content, and I think this stacks up rather nicely. Let me know in the comments if you saw any records in there that I should have grabbed. I can go back and get them. I don't think anybody really buys vinyl here anymore. So a lot of these records I could tell you I saw maybe 6 months ago, the last time I was in here. So throw us a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff. We're going to start doing some more sampler videos again. I've got a few new pieces of gear that I want to show off and do a couple deep dives on. I also kind of want to go through like some of the processes with sampling and look at some of the digital audio workstations as well. Alright, so after sifting through thrift store records for about 10 minutes, we only found like 2, which was this guy, which is the Barkays Sexomatic, which will probably be fun with a stem splitter. Probably get a cool break out of that. And Romantic Spain. As I said earlier in the video, like, buying records from a thrift store can either be detrimentally terrible or you can find some hidden gems. Today we didn't find any hidden gems. I don't know what to do with these. Maybe we're gonna do something like rip them if they're like not copyright strikeable and we can sample them on Patreon or something. But for right now, this was all we got after all that looking around. We'll probably try a different thrift store at some point this weekend, so I'll try to post another video.